I'm at the Indian National Science Academy, where there is a high-level meeting happening on role of women in science, and a very important web portal has been launched. And I have two quality mid-career scientists with me, Dr. Geetanjali Yadav, a plant data scientist, and Dr. Anandita Bhadra, a behavioral ecologist. Dr. Geetanjali, what is the portal which has been launched today?
The portal that has been launched today is the Swati portal, Science for Women, a technology and innovation platform for every girl and every woman in STEM in the country to become part of and be able to share concerns, challenges, as well as solutions to the things that we face in the Indian science ecosystem in terms of particularly diversity and inclusion in India.
So women have to voluntarily join it?
Women have to voluntarily join it because we want women to put in their information and their story themselves. We don't want somebody else telling your story. You have to tell who you are, what you did. It takes 5 minutes or 3-4 minutes to fill the form. It's a form. The moment you put your information there, it becomes reflected on the Swati portal. Others can browse about you and about different kinds of women, where they might be, what they are doing today, without having to share your personal information.
And how many women are already on the portal, and it's a publicly available portal?
First of all, yes, it's a public portal. Second of all, it has been launched today, and we are hoping today onwards a lot of women will join it. But till now, we have about 3,500 Indian women in STEM, particularly the fellows of all the three academies, the Indian National Young Academy of Science, as well as women scientists who have been funded by the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, who have already joined this initiative.
Anandita, you are a leader and a role model in some respects. What is the state of representation of women in science in India?
It's quite bad. If we just look at numbers, then it's somewhere between 10 to 15% in most institutions where you have women faculty. Much lower if you look at women in administrative positions. Very few women have been selected as directors and VCs of universities and institutions. Of the three academies of science, the senior academies of science, only one has had a woman president until now. Of course, it's a little better if you look at INEAS, because we began with a woman founding chair and we have a high representation of women, about 30%.
INEAS, can you expand it?
Yeah, it's the Indian National Young Academy of Science. It's the only young scientists academy in India, which was initially started by INSA. It's under the platform of INSA, but then we are an independent academy. We select our own members and we have our own council. So,
how can this be corrected? This lack of numbers of women both in the pipeline and at leadership?
If you look at undergrads, we actually have a lot of young girls who are doing science, but then we have the leaky pipeline. So I think, we need better policies where girls feel secure to be in the workplace. We, of course, have the ICC, the Vishaka guidelines, but then we also know in the background that they're not always implemented. There has to be, better work-life balance, which is available, so more flexi timing, opportunities to work from home if required, and shared responsibilities in the family. So, of course, we have 6 months maternity leave, excellent, but then what about paternity leave? It's only 7 days or 2 weeks. That's not enough. So when we say we want women in the workforce, we want women in positions of responsibility, they cannot be multitasking all the time and doing work at the same time at an equal level. In INEAS, what we did in the beginning is that we said we have an age bar for entering the academy, so below 40 years. But then for women who have had a career break, we make allowances. So we have already set in a policy where even if you have had a career break and you are a little over 40 years, you can apply. And then you are considered at par with the other applicants. So I think we need more and more such policies where you do not put the blame, so-called, on the woman for taking the responsibility of bearing a child and setting up a family, but you actually reward them. So we need institutions to come up with such policies. Academies, they have to be more proactive in electing women fellows. And if you are saying, okay, we have women fellows who are most of them above 60, then what are you doing? You need younger people, younger women to come into the pipeline, and for that we have both the women and the men in positions of power to take responsibility and come up with solutions.
Dr. Geetanjali, you are a mother of two. How did you balance childbearing responsibilities, family responsibilities, and your career as a leading scientist?
So the question is a past tense question, but the answer has to be in present. I continue to balance work and life. I believe that women inherently, I believe that women inherently are multitaskers. We are able to handle different things better. And that is why not just myself, a lot of women I have seen are able to manage the two sides of the role. I have been extremely lucky and blessed that the National Institute of Plant Genome Research, where I work, I live on the campus. We have campus housing, we have campus creches, we have the system coming in assisting us in this. But across the world, I think women are able to handle this. It's sometimes I think what happens is it's our inherent lack of confidence that maybe I can't do it. And then once you start thinking maybe I can't do it, then you can't do it. At one point, make it fun, make it happy, do work in an area that you enjoy working. And then the balance is not so much about balancing because we're always juggling one thing or the other. And so I think it doesn't come as such a difficult thing, and that is why we are able to manage between the two.
Dr. Anindita mentioned about the leaky pipeline.
Yes.
When we have so many women and girls at graduation level, at the master's level, what happens when they go in for a PhD and when there are job opportunities? We'll come to leadership later.
All right. I believe, and it's my opinion, that what happens when you're doing a PhD and the age at which women are completing the PhD, they're usually in their later half of their 20s. This is a time when in our society, and I don't want to particularly say this is the thing with India, it's globally because I've seen and met women all across the world, and Anindita would probably agree with me. Women start to feel at this time the crisis of social expectation. You have to, at a certain point in your life, think about a partner, think about being a mother, think about children, your career, your job, usually. And the first thing you do is put at rest and put at the back your own wishes. And what we do inherently, because we are women, because it's something that comes, it's not that the other people or the society is telling us not to do, but it is ingrained in us somehow for centuries. We are the caregivers, after all, in the society, aren't we? And so therefore, I think women at some point make an active decision that, all right, for now I'll put this on hold and I'll make sure that my life, what is expected of me in society, I do those things and then I'll surely come back. The government and all systems across different countries, in India particularly, are helping women to come back. We call it the re-entry program. But the truth is, men never ask that question. They don't think about leaving for a while and then re-entering. It's us. We think about re-entering. So at least me and Anindita, I believe we never thought about leaving, putting something on hold and coming back. And I think more and more women should think about not leaving and returning, but staying right here, pitching our tents right here and saying, all right, let's see what we can do with what we have at the time we have available. We will fulfill the roles that the society expects of us. We're not going to say, no, I'm not going to get married, not going to have children. That's a wonderful part of me, my motherhood. And so therefore that has to be there. But let's not put ourselves in the backstage because of that or in the backyard because of that. Let's remain ourselves and feel good about that confidence that little girls are full of confidence. At some point when you become I think it's a baggage of the 20s. Somehow in their 20s, women start to get bogged down with what the society expects of them and they forget what they want for themselves. I wish they would think about themselves more.
Dr. Anindita, we've seen a great organization like the Indian Space Research Organization, and we've seen women leaders of different levels. Aditya L1 satellite, the project director is Nigar Shaji. Chandrayaan 3, the deputy project director is Kalpana. Before that, for OceanSat, we had Thane Mosi. How is it that one institution is able to nurture women leaders and other institutions are not able to do that?
I guess it matters that the leadership has been inclusive in ISRO, perhaps. And once you set a record that okay, there are women who are working in this environment and they have done well, and others see them as role models and come forward. And that's why we need role models for the young girls out there, saying that you don't need to give up your dreams. You can have a career and a family and a life all at the same time. So moment you see that it's doable, someone is doing it, another woman finds that confidence. And that is why the women of ISRO have been highlighted so much. But then there should be other role models too for young girls out there who are leaders, who have had careers and have been successful.
Dr. Geetanjali, if there was one or two recommendations you were to make to Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make the scientific world in India, and a large part is funded by the government, more inclusive for women, what would that be?
The first thing I would request Prime Minister Modi to do would be to allow us to have more funds from the corporate sector. I know this is being initiated already, but the government alone cannot sustain the sheer numbers that we are in India. And of course, we are leading in terms of numbers across the world. One thing he can definitely do is make sure that the Corporate Scientific and Social Responsibility Fund, which is mostly being funneled into the technology bioincubator centers right now for the last couple of decades, should come into research, full-time active research. Once that happens, I'm sure the leading Indian missions, 9 missions that we have for the country, lots of scientists can do a lot of innovative research and breakthrough research in these 9 missions. If this can be funded by the corporate sector, that would open up a lot of things for us. Secondly, I think what he can do is create what each one of us should also try to do, every drop in the ocean counts, create more platforms where women can come and speak about and have an interaction rather than a one-sided lectures, somebody talking about something. Let's have an interaction where women can come and ask their questions to role models, for example, not just wanting to listen to me about my story. Tell me about yours, and let's learn from each other's pasts and stories. And I think that these platforms, creating such platforms where we can discuss our issues, the challenges as well as solutions that each one of us found in our, maybe from my story somebody else might gain, maybe from your story I might gain, and so on.
During the day today, I heard Professor Sangamitra Bandhopadhyay, who is the director of the Indian Statistical Institute, role model in many ways, and she defies all boundaries of gender, saying that this childbearing leave, childcare leave is something which puts women in a wrong footing. Do you kind of agree with her, and how do you think it should be corrected?
I don't see a problem with the childcare leave. I believe that the childcare leave is an empowering thing for women, and I believe that it allows me, to be able to put time. If sometimes I feel that the balance is getting out, it's not that everybody is perfect. Sometimes I can balance my life perfectly. Sometimes, let's say my child is having 10th boards, and I know that I'm the caregiver. The child trusts me more. If I get extra time to spend with my child, I think that's not a bad thing. And so the childcare leave is something I believe in as a mother. I think it's a good thing. I hope to make use of it when my kids come to the boards, as they do in India with the Indian education system. But the underside of it, or the opposite side of the view, is that why should the childcaring responsibility be only for one parent? Now that's a debatable issue, and I believe there is a scope for improving the system a little bit. Let's bring in some mechanism by which fathers and men also feel included in the process of the childcare. I know it's a caregiving, it's a biological thing. We feel, oh, mama's got to be there, but I think daddy's got to be there too.
Absolutely right. Daddy has got to be there also, and you're a behavioral ecologist. So I can't but ask you, how in all of this do we get the men to behave differently and make sure that the workplace is more inclusive for women?
Well, I think it is a matter of perspective. We cannot get men to behave in a way or women to behave in a way, but it's more like, what the social norms are and what people think are right and wrong. So people are brought up with certain perspectives. So I try to bring up my son with this perspective that he and his sister are equal and they have equal rights. And if every mother of a son does that, every father of a son does that, we probably will have a more inclusive society. For example, I can tell you when my son was small, I submitted my PhD thesis on his first birthday. And when I was writing my thesis, my husband was taking care of the child, and we were very happy to do that. In fact, I would add to this point about childcare leave. My husband is very upset that he cannot get childcare leave and I can. He thinks it's discrimination. And he says, already it's unfair that men cannot bear children. You get all the advantage, and then we cannot even get childcare leave to spend time with the kids if I want to. So it's a matter of how you think you can be equal. So personally, I don't think men or women are less or more equal or good or bad at certain things. There can be good mothers, there can be bad mothers, and vice versa. So it is our male colleagues who really need to think that it's we. It's not us versus them. It's like the women versus the men. It is a we, and we are a community together, and we have to work together at par. And that mindset is required for the workplace to be inclusive.
Dr. Geetanjali, any message for young women who want to join the stream of science and technology? How should they, what should they look forward to? And as we aspire to become a developed country, how do we do that without gender parity?
Science is a career of curiosity and of adventure. My message to all the girls and women listening to us today would be, don't ever let go of your sense of curiosity and your sense of adventure. Be logical, be rational, be a scientist. Break conventions, be a scientist, and they can be.
Thanks a lot for speaking to me, Dr. Geetanjali and Dr. Anandita. Always such a pleasure learning and listening from two leaders and two role models of India. As they say, science knows no gender. And within that, if India has to become a developed country, more and more women have to join the science stream and given an opportunity to flourish and also become leaders in their own field. Absolutely. Without that, India can never become an inclusive, equitable society which is a developed country. On a day when this very major initiative called the Swati portal has been launched from the Indian National Science Academy in New Delhi, Pallav Bagla.